But
And good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the WSJM Morning Show video live stream. I'm Ken Lundberg, and my guest this morning is Chuck Jager. He's the executive director of the Morton House Museum here in Benton Harbor.
That's right. Yep.
It's very good to see you.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
And you've got a special friend in the back there. Do you want to introduce him now, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, I can. This is Stanley Morton, and so Stanley is the third generation of the Mortons, so he's not going to say anything.
Why is he looking at me?
Yeah, and he's a little bit creepy maybe for Halloween, don't you think?
I love it.
But
I love it.
Yeah, we did a new exhibit this year, and so we did a big head, cardboard life-size Stanley Morton, and he's been popular with selfies.
Yeah.
You can come to the museum and get a picture with Stanley Morton.
Oh, we can do selfies. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
We should definitely do that.
We should.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So he was third generation Morton?
Yeah. So the original Mortons was Eliezer, kind of the first non-Native American in Benton Harbor area.
Okay.
And a fruit farmer, the first fruit farmer in the area. And then his son, Henry Morton, was one of the three founders of the city of Benton Harbor.
Okay.
And then Stanley ran steamships from across to Chicago and back. So,
okay.
Yeah, so
fantastic. Thanks for bringing him in. He's well dressed.
He is. Yeah.
The tie could be a little bit longer, but maybe that was the fashion back then.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of the Trump tie, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, the Trump tie is just like down to your feet, right? It breaks at the cuff.
Yeah. The picture's actually from him on vacation in Miami, Florida.
Oh, is it?
Kind of a tourist kind of card that you
was he hanging around with the Flaglers?
I don't know that.
Okay.
So
I think they were train magnates down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was more Alabama,
like
Gulf Shores area.
Up there.
They had a place down there, but visited and did a lot of traveling. So
very nice. Well, we're going to be exploring a lot of history and talking about the Morton House Museum, and we'll talk with Chuck about himself as well and get your background, because I'm always fascinated just to learn more about people in our area and your contributions and your background, how you got to where you are now.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yep.
So we'll talk if it's okay. We'll talk about that, and then maybe we can coax a ghost story out of you, because I think that would be fun. Because it's Halloween tomorrow.
We can do that.
You a big fan of Halloween?
It's good. Where we live, we don't get very many trick-or-treaters, so it's been kind of falling. And my kids are in their 20s, so in the past it's been good.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah.
We've seen the trick-or-treaters decline, but maybe they'll be back this year.
Yeah, we still buy candy, even though we don't give any away.
Same here. All right, we'll have that conversation in just a couple of minutes after news right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Feel free to leave us a comment if you have a question or just a comment about anything you want to talk about or something you want to know more about. I'll be more than happy to do that. You can do that on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll be back with that interview in just a moment right here on WSJM. Thanks for joining.
Annual rate. Another sentence for the man who used a hammer to attack the husband of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
As Judge Harry Dorfman was handing down David DePape's state sentence, Dorfman said it was his intention that DePape never get out of prison, giving him life in prison without the chance of parole for kidnapping, burglary, and false imprisonment of an elder. This sentence is on top of a 30-year federal prison term. When DePape was given the chance to address the court, he spoke about September 11th being an inside job, his ex-wife being replaced by a body double, and his attorneys conspiring against him. He told the court he is psychic. Alex Stone, ABC News.
A new study says teenagers are spending on average 4 hours every day staring into screens, and that does not include screen time they need to do for school. I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
For non-ballot in all states or where prohibited by law, loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
From the Pat Moody Studios, this is News Talk Sports 94.9. WSJM FM Benton Harbor, St. Joseph. Depend on us. WSJM News now. Team coverage from the WSJM newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
And good morning. Welcome back to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's 7:05 on your Wednesday, the 30th of October. Temperature outside right now, pretty much anywhere you go in Southwest Michigan because of the south winds that pushed up the warm temperatures. It's 65 degrees and windy right now. We've got a special guest in studio for the WSJM Morning Show. It's Chuck Jager. He is the executive director at Morton House Museum. And good morning, Chuck. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Still windy out there?
It is windy out there, yeah,
Okay.
but beautiful.
Yeah,
I spent
gorgeous.
some time on my patio yesterday reading a book, and
Man,
for mid-November, mid-October, that's
it's nice. It's unusual. I'm sure the trees and the squirrels and migrating birds and that kind of thing, they kind of wonder, what are we doing here? We just stay here for now.
yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk more with Chuck Jager in just a few moments. We'll talk to him about Morton House Museum and some of the things happening there. He brought a special guest in studio, so if you're not on the video live stream already, you haven't seen him, but this is a silent guest, and we'll reveal a little bit more about that. That's coming up. But first, let's take a look at what's happening in the WSJM newsroom. Berrien County government officials are working with the Michigan State Police to address speed concerns on area roadways. But so far, progress appears slow going. Thanks to a new state law, Public Act 33, local townships and road departments are supposed to have more say in setting the speed limits on local roadways, but they still need those changes approved by Michigan State Police. To date, guidance on how to go about getting MSP approval has been slim. That's according to Berrien County Administrator Brian Doucette, who says the Board of Commissioners is anxious to see some speed concerns addressed.
Michigan State Police and the Michigan County Road Association have been a little bit slow to adopt the changes and provide clear guidance. We've had good conversations with the Michigan State Police. They have provided some guidance.
County officials say as it stands, Michigan State Police speed studies often result in an increase in the speed limit of a measured roadway, and that's because speeds are set based on how fast 85% of the people there travel. Doucette says additional factors must be considered, including residential areas, commercial areas, and pedestrian traffic.
Lincoln Township, Chickaming Township have both been fairly active, that they'd like to have the speed studies conducted in an effort to try and lower the approved speeds.
Among those first on the list for consideration for lower speed limits, Ridge, Roosevelt, Glenlord Roads, and Washington Avenue. Doucette says the county will continue working with the Michigan State Police on the matter, and they expect more speed study requests to come up next spring. Nearly 2 million Michigan voters have already cast their ballots for the upcoming November 5th general election. That's according to the Secretary of State's office. As of Tuesday night, more than 389,000 people voted at an in-person early voting site, and more than 1.6 million people have voted by mail or ballot drop box. Secretary of State also reported this past Saturday, October 26th, was the highest turnout day for early in-person voting so far, with more than 145,000 ballots cast. Now, 2024 is the first election year of in-person voting. You can still register to vote if you haven't done so. Eligible residents will need to head to their local or county clerk's office with proof of residency. You can do so until Election Day. And if you've noticed an uptick recently in those small orangish, reddish beetles around the area, they look like ladybugs, but there's a chance that they're not a ladybug. The multicolored Asian lady beetle is an invasive species that comes around this time of year. And like the ladybug, they're cute. They have black spots on their back, but the Asian lady beetles are usually more oval in shape, and they're longer. Their bodies are longer than ladybugs, which are typically round. MSU Extension Officer Mike Reinke tells us they're just trying to find somewhere warm to hibernate for the winter.
Ironically enough, the multicolored Asian lady beetle is from the same basic area of the world originally as the brown marmorated stink bug, so that it has the same basic habits. It wants to try to find that cliffside or that steep hill to sneak into those rocky crevices to hide out until the cold is done and they can come back out.
Around this time of year, the beetle gravitates toward sunlight, as you might imagine. That's where you're going to find them on windows and house siding. But unlike the native ladybug, the Asian lady beetle, that is, can bite hard enough to break your skin and can actually create an odor when squished.
Most people, when they think they're being bit, they're really actually feeling the little minute claws on the beetles as they're trying to crawl on you. But they can bite a little bit. It's not harmful. It's a little annoying. but very, very few people have allergic reactions to lady beetles.
Reinke says the best plan to get rid of them is to sweep them up and throw them outside. You can also use a vacuum to suck them up, and then you can put them in the freezer if you really want to humanely kill them off. Asian lady beetles. I mean, you know the difference.
On my patio yesterday, I think I had some of those. I thought they were ladybugs, but
I want to believe they're ladybugs, but they're not.
Yeah,
They're not.
they're out there.
Yeah, they are out there. They're this time of year. That and the brown marmorated stink bug is what they were talking about as well. Invasive species just hanging around lower Michigan. All right, we've got sports coming up in just a moment. We're going to start our interview with Chuck Jager. He is the executive director of the Morton House Museum. That's coming up in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We'll start that on the video live stream. So if you tuned into the video live stream on Facebook or YouTube, just go to your platform of choice, type in WSJM and look at our video live stream. Forecast for today does call for partly sunny skies, windy conditions to continue, a high again reaching up into the mid to upper 70s. South winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. The gusts will continue, maybe up to 40 miles per hour. Forecast for tonight becoming cloudy, and by the early hours of the morning, there's a 40% chance of rain. Low around 63 degrees. Those south winds continue with the gusts up to 30 miles per hour. And Thursday, mostly cloudy, an 80% chance of rain in the morning, tapering off by mid to late afternoon. A high tomorrow around 64 degrees. Again, sports now with Dave Wolf, and then we'll continue our interview on the video live stream with Chuck Jager from the Morton House Museum. That's coming up right now.
Game 4 of the World Series in the Bronx.
And good morning. Welcome back to the video live stream. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's the WSJM Morning Show. My guest this morning is Chuck Jager. Am I saying your last name right?
Jager, yes.
Jager.
Correct. We've Americanized it. So
okay. Good. So
you more commonly hear Jager, but
Jager.
Yeah, but we say Jager. Yeah.
Do you have you ever heard anything about this thing called Jägermeister?
We have. Yeah. So
do you have like a big plaque in the house or anything like that?
Yeah. And in fact, there was a local band for a while. I think they've disbanded called the Chuck Jagers.
Oh, really?
Which at first I thought maybe was former students and kind of a tribute to
you,
me. And it turns out to be a reference to Jägermeister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you musical at all? Do you play any musical instruments?
I don't. I like to sing.
Okay.
But so
very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're talking with Chuck Jager. He is with the Morton House Museum. He's the executive director there. And in fact, we're going to go back onto the radio and find out a little bit more about his background. And we'll talk about the Morton House Museum. That's starting right now on WSJM.
And then rain for the first half of Thursday, tapering off in the afternoon with highs around 64. I'm meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
With 65 degrees outside, it's another, I'm going to say it's a short sleeve day. And I didn't even think about the sweater this morning, even though it is almost Halloween. You know, the weather this kind of year, it's not really agreeing with me that much because I want to go outside and enjoy the temperatures. But at the same time, it's like, well, but I've got leaves to rake up. I've got some winterizing to do. I've seen so many people blow out their sprinklers, and now the lawns, I don't know. Anyway, we're talking with Chuck Jager. He is the executive director of Morton House Museum. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We asked you to come by selfishly because I knew that you had a ghost story event recently, and because Halloween's tomorrow, I thought we might talk a little bit about that. Sure. But you happen to be, I don't know if you know this, you happen to be probably the most suggested guest that I've received.
Really?
When I ask people, who do you think I should have on the show? They say, have you talked to Chuck yet from Morton House?
I'm flattered.
Well,
Thanks.
That's it. I mean, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Tell us just a little, for those who don't know you, Chuck Jager, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and your background.
Yeah. So I grew up in the area and graduated from Lakeshore High School. and went off to college, and then did a short stint in Washington, D.C.
Oh, great.
Working for a congressman.
Who'd you work for?
Not anybody people would know. Is a guy named Alan Wheat.
Okay.
Is from Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Great guy and a great experience. Loved Washington, D.C.
Yeah. What'd you do? What'd you do for the congressman?
You know how they always tell you you should write your congressman?
Yes.
So the congressperson doesn't answer. They don't write that letter back.
No, I'm surprised.
I know. They have staffers like me who would compose the language, and he would approve it and change things and say, we want to say this. But that was the bulk of it, but did some research on bills and things like that.
That's good. So were you a legislative assistant then?
Legislative assistant was my title.
Okay.
Yep,
Did you have
LA.
a certain jurisdiction that you covered?
Well, in terms of topics, we did. You know, I would take, Social Security or Foreign Affairs. We would kind of divvy up between the LAs what topics we would respond to or investigate.
I think the most so I don't know if you know this. I worked in Washington, D.C. for a little time as well.
Yeah.
I was the communications director. The people the LAs either love or hate.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like the most coveted staff assignments were usually either foreign affairs or military, the Department of Defense.
Right.
And I think that was probably, or energy.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably because that had the most travel involved.
Yeah.
You could take the congressional junkets during the recesses.
I didn't get any of that. I got a junket to Kansas City.
Hey, sweet.
It's the best I got. So
very nice. And where did you go to school? Sorry.
I graduated from Kalamazoo College.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was kind of a government guy. And then at some point decided that wasn't my life career and decided to be a teacher. And a basketball coach originally.
Okay.
And so came back to Michigan and taught at Lake Michigan Catholic, Brandywine for a little bit, and then ended up for the most of the time back at Lakeshore High School.
Okay. Once a Lancer, always a Lancer.
Yeah. And kind of shifted from government to history.
Okay.
And one of the things that I always liked is the local history. And every year I'd take my kids on a local history field trip to Stevensville, St. Joe, Benton Harbor.
Oh, wow.
And so really got into the history part of it. And that kind of led me to the Morton House. At some point.
I want to talk about the Morton House in a few moments, but thinking about the wealth of history that we have in this area, what are some of the things that people find most surprising when they hear about the history of this area?
Well, especially this area, we're really close to being famous. We're
we're right on the cusp.
Yeah. So a lot of people know that there was a guy named Augustus Herring who flew an airplane 5 years before the Wright brothers on Silver Beach.
Yeah.
He doesn't get credit for it.
No.
But we're very close to being Kitty Hawk.
Somebody mentioned to me that they found what they think is a piece of the aircraft.
Wow.
And it's stored in the Indiana Jones archives at the Heritage Museum.
Wow, that would be great.
In the dunes.
Yeah.
So so that history was there.
Yeah, and I always thought it'd be great for somebody to rebuild that plane and fly it again.
That'd be so cool.
Great historical reenactment.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
What else?
So, and then I ended up living on Morton Hill in Benton Harbor for about 9 years, and went to church there. And the ladies at the Morton House Museum found out there was a history teacher living down the street. And so I became part of the board back in the 1990s and been involved ever since, and then became executive director just the last couple of years.
Tell us about the Morton Hill Morton House. It has quite a deep roots in the area.
Yeah. Yep. So the Morton House is the oldest house in Benton Harbor, 1849. And if you do the math, we are celebrating this year the 175th anniversary of the Morton House. And that's the demi-semi-sepcentennial.
The demi-semi-sepcentennial. That's good. 175 years. Okay.
175 years.
Wow.
And
still the same house?
Still the same house from 1849. Now, it was renovated in 1912. And that's kind of what you see if you come visit is the 1912 version of the house.
Okay.
But it was a family house from 1849 up until about 1940 or so. And so that's still kind of what you can see. If you want a cool old house tour, you can see here's what this great place looked like.
Why did they decide to build there?
They originally lived right downtown on Main Street. If people know where the old Liberty Theater was, it was right there. And then that started to become a commercial district, and it was up on the hill. It's a great spot, overlooks downtown. It's really kind of scenic. And it was also the center of their 500-acre fruit farm. So that's, I think, why they located there. And also it was on the Territorial Road, which stretched from Detroit to Benton Harbor. So it was right on the main highway, really, of the 1840s.
Beautiful. What's happening in the 1840s when they're building that house? What's happening in the area?
Well, not much in Benton Harbor. It's just a bunch of fruit farmers. And the Territorial Road is really the main thing that's going on there. But it's agricultural. And Benton Harbor doesn't really start until about 1860, 1862 with the building of the Benton Harbor Ship Canal, where there's kind of a dispute. I could go into that a little bit with St. Joe. In 1859, the bridge over to St. Joe washed out, and Henry Morton and Stern Brunson and Charles Hull, the three founders, they go over to St. Joe and go, hey, let's work together to rebuild the bridge. And the guys in St. Joe said, we don't really care if there's a bridge.
Oh, dear.
And so what they did instead is they built the Ship Canal, which went all the way into what is now downtown Benton Harbor. And even though downtown Benton Harbor is about a mile off Lake Michigan, they really turned it into a lake port. And so those ships could bypass St. Joe, and those fruit farmers from this side of the river could put their fruit on the boat right in downtown Benton Harbor. The old fruit wagons would line up down Territorial. We've got postcards and pictures of it was essentially the first fruit market, is those farmers lining up their wagons to be put on the boats.
That's amazing. Is that how later on the House of David ships were able to come through?
And House of David was really big into agricultural. They were huge as part of the fruit industry here.
So when there was that dispute between Benton Harbor and St. Joe over the bridges and the ship canal creation, was that purely a commercial play?
It very much was. Yep. So, and then once they had that, they said, let's have a city here, and the stores and businesses
and it became the big city.
And a lot of people don't know, from the late 1800s up until about the 1960s or so, Benton Harbor was really the center of Southwest Michigan. St. Joe was kind of a sleepy little town. Benton Harbor was where you shopped. It's where you went to a movie. It's where you stayed in a hotel. It was the place in Berrien County.
Some of the big ground old houses you can still see today. Beautiful.
Pipestone, Colfax, Territorial.
Gorgeous architecture.
Yep.
Maybe we can talk about the architecture at the Morton House in just a few minutes, but we're talking with Chuck Jager. He is the executive director of the Morton House Museum. We'll also talk about some of the events that they have coming up at the museum, and he may share a ghost story with us. So we'll have that. We also have Stanley Morton, who is standing behind Chuck right now, just keeping a watchful eye on this interview, making sure everything goes well.
Even though he died in 1936.
But he's still here. So if you want to know what we're talking about, tune into the video live stream. We're at YouTube and Facebook. It's WSJM. We'll be right back.
Would you call free checking that pays you cash back on
I am just fascinated by the kind of the turn of events through the years of how Benton Harbor became a huge city, and it was like the place to be. And then all of a sudden, it has turned around to where St. Joe has a lot of the wealth, and such. What era are we talking about where we start to see the decline?
It's really the 1950s and 60s, and that's a number of factors. So suburbanization happens, so people move out to South St. Joe, Lakeshore, places like that. One of the big things is I-94 coming through. So Main Street, Benton Harbor used to be the main road between Detroit and Chicago. And then all the businesses start to move out to I-94. You get Fairplain Plaza, you get Orchards Mall, right? And so that's where the hotels are, and that's where the stores are, that kind of thing. And then you also get the great migration of African Americans and moving up from the South. And unfortunately, a lot of white people said, I don't want to live in the same neighborhood as Black people. And so they move out. So they lose a lot of the tax base, right? Those kind of things. And so it's really the kind of the 50s and 60s is when that 50s, 60s, 70s when that changed. So.
When as a history teacher and somebody who I assume you love history.
I absolutely do. Yeah.
As a history teacher and a history lover, how do you perceive some of the things that are happening today? Do you take a look at it and say this is that spot in time where, okay, this can be a turning point for where this community, where this economy can go from here? Because we've seen, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. A lot of people forget history, and they do the same things today that could lead to an outcome maybe you don't want.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're talking about St. Joe, Benton Harbor.
Sure. Or the nation. I mean,
yeah,
anything
I do
you
really
wish.
see some progress locally.
Yeah, let's talk
where,
about that.
especially the St. Joe government has been much more willing, I think, to work together. And one of the things, if we want to talk about a little bit later, is the dual Martin Luther King monuments that are going to be dedicated in November.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Where both cities really embrace that idea, which they haven't often embraced the same idea in the past.
Yeah,
so,
agree. Yeah, no, I am talking specifically about this area of Southwest Michigan because we're at a turning point in so many different ways.
Yeah,
you talk about population decline, you talk about some of the economy transformation or lack thereof. It feels like okay, we're always at a turning point.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I try to tell people too, is if you know your history, you look at history, a lot of people feel like we're on the edge of catastrophe, and with this political divide. But you want to go back to the 1790s, you find the same kind of nasty political kind of stuff going on. Yeah. And certainly the Civil War, our nation was deeply divided, right? And so I'm a little bit more optimistic that you know your history, like, well,
we've been through this before.
We've been through this before.
And it's not been as pretty.
Yeah.
So as a former staffer in Washington, D.C., did you bone up on some of the history of the Capitol and see some of the areas where like congressmen were hitting each other with canes?
I did. Yeah. Love that story. And I love the one with the old the House of Representatives where John Adams would pretend to be asleep. And there's the acoustics where you can hear from the other side.
Yeah.
And he would basically spy on the other side, pretending to be taking a nap.
I love that.
Yeah. So
I think it's in the original House chamber.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Which is now Statuary Hall.
Statuary Hall. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And you can. It's part of the tour if you've done it. You stand in one area and the tour guide goes to the other area and just whispers, and it's unbelievable if they get it right.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and one of my thrills is you can only really do it with a congressman or a senator, but we got to go up on the outside of the dome.
Oh, yeah.
You go all the way in the dome and actually be outside there right below the Statue of Freedom there.
It's so cool.
It was a great experience. That was one of the big perks. Like,
how long were you in Washington, D.C.?
I was there for about 3.5 years during the Reagan years. So early 80s, 83 to 87.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. Great time to be there.
Yep.
All right. It's 7:28. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We're listening to the Bloomberg Market Minute. They are going to be talking about financial items here. Let's see. We've got our ABC News coming up. Sorry, this is some of the behind the scenes, Chuck, where I look and see, okay, have we got enough commercials here? Do I need to move stuff around? Okay. Going to move that and that. Just taking a look at our comments this morning. John says, good morning, John Hawkins. He is he's in Tennessee, and he joins us every morning because he grew up in this area.
Great.
Joins us for the show. All right, we'll be back in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We're talking with Chuck Jager. He is the executive director of Morton House Museum.
But the S&P 500 rose nearly 0.2%, and the Nasdaq added 0.8% yesterday and closed at a new record high. This morning, the stock futures have been mixed. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
And good morning. Welcome back to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. My special guest this morning in studio is Chuck Jager. He is the executive director of the Morton House Museum. It's 7:29. The forecast for today, we're looking at partly sunny skies. Windy conditions will continue. Highs are going to be in the mid to upper 70s. South winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Gusts possible up to 40. Tonight's forecast becoming cloudy, a 40% chance of rain by the early morning hours. Low around 63 degrees. Those south winds will continue with gusts up to 30. And then the rain should be tapering off sometime tomorrow morning, maybe mid to late afternoon, but there's a really good chance there's going to be raining when you wake up at this time tomorrow morning. A high tomorrow around 64 degrees. Hopefully it'll dry out by the time the trick-or-treaters are out, but it's still going to be a little bit windy. That southwest wind continuing 15 to 20 miles per hour with some higher gusts. The extended forecast looking at Friday and Saturday, it's going to be partly cloudy both days. The high is going to be somewhere in the mid-50s to 60 degrees both days. The low is going to be somewhere around 45 on Friday and down to 38 degrees on Saturday. Then Sunday, we get mostly cloudy skies again with a big 40% chance of rain, high around 62 degrees. We have more of our interview with Chuck Jager coming up in just a moment. Also, we've got news right now from ABC. Then we're going to check our local news from the WSJM newsroom.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. More than 50 million Americans have already voted, so closing arguments by Vice President Kamala Harris may not make any difference. Still, she made her case on the Ellipse in Washington last night. ABC's Selena Wang was there.
She made the pitch to Americans that while Trump is focused on his own grievances and himself, she is focused on the issues that Americans care about. She went through her plan to lower the cost of groceries, of prescription drugs, her plan to create more affordable housing. And she of course, pledged to restore reproductive freedoms, abortion, a critical issue that her campaign believes is going to turn out people to the polls on Election Day.
Donald Trump rallied before voters in Allentown, Pennsylvania, asking them,
"Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?"
We find out this morning how much the U.S. economy grew in the last quarter. The Federal Reserve could use that number to make further decisions on interest rates at its meeting next week. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:32, 65 degrees and windy all across southwest Michigan. Good morning. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Some of the news that we're following from the WSJM Newsroom. The City of St. Joseph leaders are working to grow the area with a new economic development and community marketing strategy. For the last few months, the city officials, along with the Downtown Development Authority, have been in discussions of how to bring in additional business and housing and residents to the area. So we'll talk a little bit more about that plan. That's coming up at 8 o'clock this morning in our newscast. Also, after years of planning, permit seeking, and multiple delays, it appears a plan for construction is back on for a new gas station, convenience store, and truck stop at the intersection of I-94 and M139, the interchange there. Speedway says they're ready to break ground. They've got the new permits in hand, and they'll probably do that in the springtime. So we'll have that story coming up at 8 o'clock. And Glenlord Road, traffic note, Glenlord Road between Red Arrow Highway and Ridge Road will be closed to eastbound traffic today. They are resurfacing the roadway there after some road milling happened. So we'll be talking a little bit about that at 8 o'clock, but be aware for your commute. We've got sports coming up in just a moment after a look at state news. Also, we're going to continue our interview on the video live stream with Chuck Jager. He's the executive director of Morton House Museum. Fun stuff we'll talk about in just a moment right here on WSJM.
The Michigan News Network.
I'm Beth Fisher, Detroit Lions.
Sorry about that. We were just, Chuck and I were just talking about Halloween. So
yeah. So the Morton House Museum, one of the things we're doing is they're doing a downtown St. Joe and a downtown Benton Harbor from 4:30 to 6 trick-or-treating, where we set up tables and kids go from street to street and kind of things like that. So we're participating. So
very nice.
I'm going to be dressed as Abraham Lincoln. So
fantastic.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same height as Abraham Lincoln.
Are you really?
Yeah.
How tall are you?
I'm about 6'3".
Okay.
I think he was about 6'3.5".
Okay.
But and one of the interesting things is I weigh about 195.
Okay.
And the last year of his life, Abraham Lincoln was 6'3.5" and about 165.
Wow.
So I'd have to lose about 30 pounds.
You got time.
Yeah, to be actually like Abraham Lincoln. So.
One of those things that I see in my mind is that he has a full beard. He does not.
No, it's kind of just around the chin, and
it's just around the chin. Why was that a fashion statement back then?
Yeah, I would guess. I mean, the story is a little girl said you'd look better with a beard, and he grew the beard.
Okay.
Just before he took office,
but kept the upper lip clean.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess so. I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. So Abraham Lincoln, ever in Michigan?
Yes. His only visit was Kalamazoo, Bronson Park.
Okay.
Gave a speech. I want to say 1856.
Okay.
1858.
And this is when he was still in Congress.
He would have been after he was in Congress, before his president.
After Congress,
about the
before
time when
president.
he was running for Senate.
Okay.
Which he lost, but
that's because he gave a speech in Michigan and not in Illinois.
Yeah, and you know that the birthplace of the Republican Party is Jackson, Michigan.
I did not know that.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, it was just forming, and there was a group of people who said, "Hey, let's start a new party." And there is a town in Wisconsin also claims to be the birthplace, but those people are just wrong. So.
Very nice, very nice. We've got a jail to prove it there, a prison in Jackson.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. It's 7:36. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're talking with Chuck Jager. He is the executive director of the Morton House Museum. Some of the things that you have at the museum, you encourage visitors.
We do. Unfortunately, we don't have open hours now. We're open from May to October.
Okay.
But you can call us up, and this is my retirement gig, so we can arrange a private tour. We also have a research room where if people want to research Benton Harbor history, they can come in, and we've got a lot of kind of cool resources for that kind of thing. But
what sort of resources do you have at the research room?
Yeah, so there was a longtime Benton Harbor history teacher, Harold Atwood, who was kind of the local history guru. And when he died, he bequeathed all his stuff. So we have all these vertical files, newspaper clippings, books, those kind of things. We have city directories. We have a lot of photographs.
Wow.
So it's a nice resource. And I'm not sure I mentioned it at this point. I should have. Our mission is really to be the home of Benton Harbor history.
Okay.
So for a long time, we were just a house museum. Come look at an old house. And one of the problems is once you've been to the house, why go back?
Okay.
And also, we really wanted to be more relevant to the community. We were kind of like a little island of just some strange people showing this house. And being the home of Benton Harbor history, we really want to be kind of part of the continued revitalization of Benton Harbor, right? Be a cultural institution and help with the identity, because you really need to know your history to know what's going on today. And so we really want to play that, relevant part of what's going on today in Benton Harbor.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it fascinating to you to see what's happening over with modern plastics, that area?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Benton Harbor had a rich industrial past. It was really a factory town. And now you're seeing those places, sometimes go away. And hopefully sometimes we preserve some of those buildings.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things we're doing with our preservation awards, which is coming up soon.
Talk about that, preservation awards.
Yeah. So every 2 years since 2010, we've done the Benton Harbor Preservation Awards. We're really trying to encourage and honor people who are saving these historic buildings and historic places. And so on Thursday, November 7, we're having a trivia night and an awards kind of night. So we're doing a bunch of historical trivia. So we're going to have some local history, some Michigan history, some presidential history, since we're 2 days after the presidential election. And should be a lot of fun. And then in between rounds of trivia, we're going to award these people. So we have 4 buildings that are going to be awarded a preservation award.
Oh, fantastic.
And then we also do a top 10 most endangered list. And one of the tragic things about Benton Harbor is we've really torn down so much of our history. And we're really trying to keep that from happening in the future. So we've got a list of 10 places that really our community would be so much better if we saved those places.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to highlight those and encourage people to buy those, save those, redevelop those. buildings.
So the 4 awards and the 10 most endangered, those will be announced at this event?
Thursday, November 7th. It's at the Secret Garden on Main Street in Benton Harbor. So it's a great venue and should be lots of fun. We've got mocktails, appetizers. So it really could be a fun night. So we encourage people to come out and join us.
Yeah.
If you're into history, if you want to do some historical trivia, if you care about Benton Harbor, it'd be a good night for you to
Who is the Alex Trebek at this trivia night?
That's probably going to be me. Here doing that.
Did you come up with the questions?
I'm working on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to do a sample?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You know the tallest president ever.
Okay, Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. Good.
Yeah.
Do you know the smallest president?
Polk.
No,
Okay.
it's James Madison, 5'4" and less than 100 pounds.
No kidding, less than 100?
Less than 100 pounds. They called him Little Jimmy. James Madison is our smallest president.
That's pretty good.
So if you're listening and you can come and you can, so there's a point right there for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to be at the Secret Garden, and it's going to be on November 7th, Thursday, November 7th. And for information on how to attend.
Yeah. So best thing is mortonhousemuseum.org for that. And also our Facebook page. We've got that event out there, and that's the most current, that kind of stuff. So you just do Morton House Museum on Facebook.
Okay.
You'll get
Is there a ticket price?
Yeah. So we are asking a suggested donation at $10, and that supports our mission and helps out with being the home of Benton Harbor history.
Okay, we'll talk more about this in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Thanks for joining us.
Tonight will become cloudy with chances of rain developing by early morning. We'll drop to 63. And then rain for the first half of Thursday, tapering off in the afternoon with highs around 64. I'm meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:41, breezy start to the day, and 65 degrees out in Southwest Michigan. So you probably only need a light sweatshirt or maybe just a short sleeve shirt, depending on your preference. But it's gonna, as Carrie Peugeot mentioned, it's just going to be another nice and warm day. Just that wind is going to be keeping around for the day. We do have a special guest in studio right now, Chuck Jager. He's the executive director at the Morton House Museum. We've been having a great conversation. Stanley's been in the background. He hasn't chimed in much yet, but he's been looking at me. Stanley Morton's in the studio.
Staring you down.
He is. He's staring me down. He says, take a selfie with me.
Yeah.
But Chuck, one of the things that we asked you is, would you mind bringing a ghost story, since tomorrow's Halloween, a ghost story to the show this morning? So what do you have?
Yeah, so it is one of the interesting things about the Morton House Museum. We've had a number of paranormal groups in there, and they typically find orbs or some kind of, they have these orbs.
Yeah.
They're little bright things that show up on photographs, and, they have these different mechanical kind of things that find sounds and things
the
like
monitors,
that.
the sensors.
Yeah, one of the things that we have a board member who kind of specializes in that and is most into it. She says that the Morton House Museum is actually best during the day. She says the Morton House ghosts go to sleep at night. They go to bed early. So, a lot of these groups want to do a late night thing.
Sure, because it's dark,
kind of
it's
thing.
scary,
It's
and
dark
all
and
that.
spooky,
Yeah.
but we've actually found more stuff in there. I haven't personally experienced it, and I'm a little upset about that. I spend a lot of time at the Morton House Museum. I'm there usually alone, and it'd be nice if Stanley said hello, or
You don't want that. You're asking for trouble.
I guess, but that's the other thing is that our ghosts are apparently friendly. But,
Well, that's nice.
So, a number of people have experienced thing. Probably the best one is we used to have a caretaker back in probably the 70s or 80s. We had a little apartment in the back of the house, and they were living there, and someone was visiting them and taking a look at the pictures, and they were looking at the pictures of Henry and Josephine Morton. Josephine Morton tragically died on her birthday at age 29, died on her 29th birthday.
That's sad.
And this visitor commented like, oh, Josephine's very pretty. And then they heard in the background, thank you.
Oh my!
They heard a voice that said thank you.
That gave me chills just now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's pretty good.
Who knows? I haven't experienced, but sometimes they say you have to be receptive, and maybe I'm not sensitive and receptive.
And you're a really
enough,
nice guy, and so
maybe
they want to. They know you have important work to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't bother me. So.
That's great. So when did you make the decision to join Morton House?
Yeah, it was really about 1995, and again, I was into history at that point. I was living in the neighborhood. My wife and I were fixing up an old house in the neighborhood, and so very much dedicated to Morton Hill and the neighborhood and the history of Benton Harbor. I'll tell you that I grew up in Stevensville. Didn't know Benton Harbor. I remember going to J.C. Penney, for my mother to buy me tidy whities when I was, 8 years old. No, not at the mall. Downtown Main Street.
Oh, that one.
That one down there. But the thing that appeals to me in Benton Harbor is really I love the underdog. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. And Benton Harbor has a real underdog story, I think.
Yeah.
I think in this area and stuff. So that's what really appealed to me with the history.
And again, remind people of the mission of the Morton House Museum. It is about that history.
We're to be the home of Benton Harbor history. So we do talks, we do tours. We've done walking tours, bicycling tours, even a paddling tour down the old historic ship canal. And so we do all kinds of stuff to try to share that history. We usually do an exhibit and a companion book. And so we have a Benton Harbor history exhibit right now.
Okay. What's in that exhibit?
So one of the big things is, to be frank, in the past, we kind of took the history up to about the 1930s when Stanley died and his wife. And now we want to make it more relevant and bring it up here. And that means including the history of African Americans. So we've got a whole section on Black Benton Harbor. So lots of famous people, right? So Sinbad and Wilson Chandler and things like that.
Yeah.
But also some kind of early African American pioneers like Henry Wims was a drayman. He's the guy who would take your luggage from the boats to your hotel, and also owned the first taxi cab company in Benton Harbor.
Really?
And June Woods, who planted all kinds of trees. A lot of people knows him. So we've got that's a special section in that exhibit.
That's excellent. It will give you more information in just a moment. They have a couple of special events coming up. There's the Preservation Awards, and then combined with a trivia night, and then there's also the holiday, the Christmas.
Yep, our holiday open house is a long-standing tradition.
So we'll talk about those two events that are upcoming and how you can participate in just a moment during our Moody on the Market update. This is the WSJM Morning Show.
Rich Brand and Tara Halsey from Insurance Management Service, your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and Niles, know it means something to have peace of mind knowing
staff that the majority of their career has been in insurance, and the majority of their career has been at IMS. They're born and raised in our community, most of our staff, or lived here a long, long time. We
here, and I didn't think it.
No, that's okay. So go ahead.
Yeah, so our board member who kind of specializes in the paranormal stuff actually she has some audio of hearing voices.
Really?
Yeah. So
Ooh.
There's
Could you make out what they're saying?
You can a little bit, and sometimes I didn't think it would be great on the radio. I'm not sure it would have reproduced, but there's one where they ask, they're kind of asking. I think they were asking Stanley actually, do you want to talk to this person? And you can kind of hear like, no, not right now, or something like that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
that sounds like we're gonna have to have a part 2 of this.
Maybe.
Of this visit.
Yeah.
No, that's good. The as you look for additional resources to preserve that history of Benton Harbor, do you take donations? Do you often look for that?
We absolutely do. So we encourage people to be a member and kind of join with that. And we do have had some generous people. So yeah, we survive on donation grants, and then income from things like the trivia night or from tours and things like that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So financial donations. What about historical artifacts?
Yeah. In the past, we've gotten all kinds of stuff as an old house museum. Well, I've got this old thing. Do you want it?
Yeah.
And now we're really, especially we don't have a lot of space. We're interested in Benton Harbor items. If you have something that can kind of help us tell that story of the history of Benton Harbor, we'd love to have it.
Okay.
Right. So old yearbooks or old photographs, or, we've gotten a number of different things. We just got this summer an old clock from the 1800s that was from a kind of a Benton Harbor pioneer. So if it's connected to Benton Harbor, we'd love to have people donate those things to us.
Okay. We're going to come back and talk about how you can do that and how you can get involved in some of the events that they have coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We'll talk about that in just a second.
9 WSJM.
This has been a joy. Thank you so much for coming in today. Chuck Jager is the executive director of Morton House Museum, and now I can see why everyone said you should get Chuck in to talk
Well,
with
thank you.
about the Morton House Museum. And one of the things that your mission is to preserve and help spread the word about Benton Harbor's history. And one of the ways you do that is through artifacts. And so go ahead and make your pitch.
We do. We are trying to tell the story of Benton Harbor, and artifacts and books and photographs have that. So, if you have stuff connected to the history of Benton Harbor, we'd love to be the place where you think of us and share that history with everybody else. Lots of people have stuff, on their mantle or in their attic, and if you want to share that, we'd love to have it. So,
and the way to contact Morton House Museum is just you can go to their Facebook page or you can go to their website. The website is mortonhousemuseum.org.
Yep.
You do have events coming up, a couple of key events. Let's talk about those.
We do. We have the trivia night and preservation awards on November 7. And then the other one is December 7. We have our annual holiday open house. And this is a tradition that people have been partaking in for decades, really. It's just a wonderful afternoon. It's from 11 to 4. And it's you can see the house decorated for Christmas. The theme this year is Here We Come a Caroling. So we're going to look at different carols, different rooms. We'll have kind of different Christmas carols. We're going to have one of our board members give just a short 10-minute talk on the history of Christmas carols and how some of those came about.
Nice.
And the highlight is always the dessert. So we have just an amazing dessert table of different kind of cookies and brownies and all kinds. It's an amazing table, and you can also get a plate of cookies that you can buy to go, and then some wassail. Do you know wassail?
I've heard of wassail.
Wassail's
I don't know what's in it.
It's kind of a spiced punch.
Okay.
And it's delicious. It's warm, and it's.
Is it a libation?
It is not. It's
Okay.
non-alcoholic.
Okay,
is
very
what you
good.
mean, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, it is non-alcoholic, but it's wonderful, and it's just a great kind of throwback, kind of homey feel of music playing and decorations and history and
Are there
cookies
working fireplaces in Morton House?
not working. No,
Okay.
we have a fireplace that will be decorated, but we have not cranked
Probably
that up.
smart. Keep the fire down. Yeah. Good. What anything else that we should know about Morton House? Oh, let's talk some of the reasons that you have these fundraising events is obviously to raise some resources to help continue this.
Yeah, we're a 501c3, and so not a big budget right now. We're in good shape, but we'd always love to have people help us financially. If you want to become a member on our website, you can see how to do that. If you'd like to make a donation, that's really how we survive and how we continue to tell this great and interesting story of Benton Harbor.
I love it. I love it. Let's get right into our Moody on the Market update before the hour expires. Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And one of the things among the things that we like to bring forward on the Moody on the Market update, we talk about business updates. We talk about life in Southwest Michigan and why we love it here. And then we also talk about interesting people you should know. And I think we've accomplished that this morning with Chuck Jager. He's the executive director of Morton House. Chuck, when you're not at the Morton House, when you're not creating trivia for trivia night, when you're not studying history or playing basketball against Mike Weibel, what do you do for fun?
I love to read books, especially nonfiction and history. I'm also a bicycle rider.
Okay.
And yesterday and today, great days outside, but not a good day to ride a bicycle.
Because of the wind.
The wind is the worst thing. I can deal with rain. I can deal with cold. But a stiff headwind is just discouraging. So
you just got back from overseas. Maybe talk about that.
Yeah. So my son decided to compete at the World Championship Triathlon in Spain, Torremolinos, Spain. And so my wife and I decided, let's take advantage and go over there with him and provide an Airbnb for him. And so it was a great thing, kind of on the Mediterranean coast, and had beautiful weather, kind of 75 and sunny most of the time. And so great sights to see.
How did he do?
He did okay. He would have liked to have done a little bit better. He was 38th in his age group.
I mean, for the world, that's not bad.
And crashed on the bike.
Oh.
Nothing serious, scrapes. But it was a great experience for him. I think he was very happy with.
Is this his first one?
He's done other triathlons, including the Steelhead here. But the last 2 years he's competed at the national championships in Milwaukee, and that's kind of how he qualified for the World Championships.
Well, good on him. Well, thank you for sharing that, and we'll continue to root for him. Does he have any triathlons upcoming?
He's thinking about London next year.
Oh boy, you ready for London?
I'm not sure we are, but you don't want to think about a trip when you're just getting home.
That's true.
Later on, it might be more appealing.
Well, welcome back, and thank you for sharing all the information you've shared this morning about Morton House Museum. Anything that else we need to touch on?
No.
You're closed for the season, right?
Closed for the season, but in some sense we're open, because give me a call. 269-313-2106, and we'd be happy to arrange a tour. We can get you in there. So
perfect. Morton House Museum Executive Director Chuck Jager. If you want more information about what they do and how to call him and set up a tour of the house, I've done it before. It's a beautiful house. It's gorgeous, and the way you've preserved it is wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of a hidden jewel in the community. We get lots of people who go, "Oh, I've lived here my whole life and I've never been here before." So people need to remedy that. If you haven't been there, come on up.
It's beautiful. And you can just go to their website, mortonhousemuseum.org, and you can see the events they have upcoming. There's also a link to their Facebook page. And so if you want more information, just go there. If you want to listen to this full interview, just go back to our archive on the Facebook page or on YouTube and type in WSJM and look at all our videos that we have up there. We've got to get to news. So Chuck, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be talking with you soon. Look forward to the November 7 event, because we want to know more about the Preservation Awards.
Should be lots of fun.
All right. It's 7:57.
So, you want a free checking account?
And for those of you on the video live stream, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Chuck. We appreciate you coming in.
Stanley and I enjoyed it. So
Stanley's great. Do you mind if we get a quick selfie with Stanley?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, let's do that real quick.
You want the three of us?
Yeah, if we could.
I don't care.
All right. Here, just like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. All right. All right. So now that we've got the selfie done, we're going to say thank you to Chuck and wish you a good morning. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow.